Right. It's technical, it's challenging. This is going to be all about skill today in the Grand Prix Legend Series. 2024 Season 1 hits its final 5 arena Oschersleben, and it's here with us today on the Global Sim Racing channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching around the world. My name is Jake Sperry, and alongside me in the booth for today's action is Fen Woodruff. Robert O'Brien has jumped into the director's chair today, and he is using the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But to Oschersleben, a circuit which is known for one call and one call only, and that, of course, is for the design of turn number 1 out here on this track. To know what the rest of this circuit does, instead of being taken into a dark room, let's take a look at our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. About 2 hours west of Berlin, it hailed in a more modern era of racetracks for the country when it opened in 1997. But perhaps one of the most surprising statistics about this place is it's only the 4th permanent racing facility to open in Germany. With 4 layouts to choose from, ranging between 1 and 3.5 kilometers, it's very well suited to touring cars, GT cars, and lower-level open-wheelers. Hotel and Turn 7 are 2 notable corners due to the fact that they each offer more than 180 degrees of rotation. However, Hotel is the more famous for its tighter, slower version, causing all kinds of headaches on race starts when drivers inevitably slow to a crawl trying to navigate it. The chicane doesn't do much to slow cars down, but it does create a very tricky entry into the long right-hander of 10. Also, Triple does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a 3-apex turn on your way into 7, so precision will be key. The front stretch and back stretch are nice long straights to get the car going, but both create dilemmas with difficult corners for overtaking at the end of them. It's a lot of tightly packed, technical and twisty circuit shoved into a small footprint. But much like the layout, this venue offers a lot for a little with its great racing.
This is a track which has a lot of technicality around it, and the big key today here, Fen, is going to be those long corners, over 180 degrees, both at Hotel, which is turn 2, and then after the triple, which leads over towards the chicane. It is going to be about positioning and placement and management over a race where you look at today, there's only 2 real great places to make the passes, 1 and then over into Shell.
Absolutely. With that 14 turns, there's really only two good spots to make an overtake, unless you want to take a very unconventional line through the chicane. 2.296 miles or 3.7 kilometers is this track. We're doing the traditional GP layout, so we're not doing the hard 90 that I believe got the dark corner its name. But anyway.
It's a track which has the great ability to find a lot of overtakes. It will be a flowing start to the lap that we'll find here today. But let's talk championship, because this is a very close run series up at the very top. Drivers are split F1 and F2. The F1 championship standings are going to be the most important. And Togo Hisada is the driver who currently finds himself on the top of the stack as things stands. 273 points to his name with his 2 drop rounds already applied. Jorge Nieva is just 10 points adrift, with Mick Claridge dropping back into 3rd with his 2 drop rounds used over the last 2 weeks. Jordan Gronkowski up to 4th, and Sebastian Tixier into 5th position. 6th, as it currently stands, is Aldrius Valentias, who's got 3 race wins to his name on his sporadic starts, with Laust Olsen 7th, Marco Antonio Lopez in 8th position, and then you've got Bill Tyler 9th and John Olsen then in 10th position. The F2 championship then is also going to be an important port of call. That championship is starting to become a runaway with Kevin Verbruggen at the top as things stands. There are your F1 driver standings up on top of your screen. But F2 here, Fen, as you can see, Kevin Verbruggen has an incredible points margin at the top.
Absolutely. Short, not too far behind, but definitely some work to be made there for John Stefan, who is 44 points behind. Then you got a nice grouping there between second and really down to about fifth, with Jonathan Jordan in third, Arnold Cook, in fourth, Rodrigo Miranda in fifth, Kurt Clapper in sixth, Donald Peak in seventh. That's a tight battle for sixth place there. In eighth, you have Rolly Wallbank. Ninth, Mats Linden. And 10th is Tobias Honvi in 80.
He very much is. He's doing a great job. Cup of Nations is slowly turning into Spain's hands. They're 20 points clear up at the top, thanks to Jorge Nieva with the United Kingdom. The closest challengers out there at this moment in time, Japan, find themselves close in that battle too in third. It's then Singapore and the United States in the race for fourth and fifth. Denmark currently classified in sixth in their own scrap with the Netherlands. Lithuania pretty much on the back of Audrius Valentines find themselves in eighth, with Germany ninth, looking to capitalize on home soil here today. And it's Sweden who round out the top 10 thanks to the results of Lars Olsen. It's round 8 of 12 here today, Fen. 5 rounds left in this championship and 23 laps worth of racing to decide who comes out of Oschersleben with the championship lead.
Absolutely. 23 laps. We're going to see if these cars can keep it together in one piece with all this technicality. Open setup. So I've been seeing the individuals kind of been talking over the past few weeks on whether or not they want to use the fifth gear on that back straight or just stick it in fourth for as long as they can. No spare cars. So they really got to keep those cars clean and together in one piece for the entirety of it. A drive-through penalty at 17 and a disqualification at 25 incident points.
Yes, it's going to be a very fraught day today. Keep an eye on the instant points. This is the sort of circuit with how technical it is. It's so easy to rack them up, and you have less than one per lap in the back pocket. Qualifying currently underway. It is Nicola Cocchi who was fastest, but Audrius Valentines becomes the first driver to jump into the 124s, and he does so brilliantly. Bill Tyler's second lap is good enough as we currently find ourselves on board then through the middle sector of this lap as things currently stand, and that is a slow to a crawl for a lap that will not go any further. Bill Tyler, with some great qualifying, finds himself in second position, but a number of drivers are looking at today thinking, well, how do we jump up the order and how do we gain the time on a circuit today, Fen, that will look quite difficult to overtake? You see the runs here that they've got in these Lotus 49s. They don't have long to get the power up. They can go incredibly quick, this machinery, but it's such long braking that these cars have, and Audrius sliding through the chicane.
Yeah, so remember, these cars don't have any downforce to keep these cars planted in these kind of more technical high corner sections. So they end up having to get on the brakes a little sooner so that way they can get the car rotated without losing the back end as they're trying to put power down again.
Audrius looking to increase his margin in the 8 minutes of qualifying that they have. They have 2 flying laps available to them, and after that, he's not going to do too much. Right over the pit entry, trying to get turn out of the final corner, rushing over towards the line. A small dip descent. 24.8 was his first time. He's just found 2 more tenths. It's a 24.6, and he is 3.5 tenths clear of everybody else. When Audrius is on form, nobody has been able to get even remotely close to his times out there. Henry Brown is one of the drivers out there on a flying lap currently, but a number of drivers out of position here today at Oschersleben.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see when we get underway in that first kind of couple laps where people kind of settle in and how far away Audrius will get at the beginning of this and how everybody else will try to make up those positions.
There's a black flag associated with his time, so it looks like most of the drivers are done with their qualifying, so they are going to be unable to improve, which means Audrius Valentines will be on the pole position, a 124.605. Bill Tyler has been very close to victory this season, but hasn't been able to get the one he wants. He's alongside on the front row. Nicola Cocchi will start from third position with Lars Olsen, a great qualifying in fourth. Jorge Nieva will go from fifth. 5th, and Richard Watson in 6th position. Your championship leader, Togo Hesada, will have it all to do. He starts in 7th and almost a second down on Valentias in qualifying, with John Olsen in 8th and Marco Antonio Lopez starting from 9th position. Your top 10 is rounded out by Roberto Pangrazzi.
In 11th, you have Xavier Sanchez. In 12th, David Rossi, rounding out row 6. Kevin Verbruggen is going to be in 13th, with Matthew Maudsley, in 14th. Jan Stefan is 15th. Robert Plumey in 16th. Cam Porter and Benjamin J. Zocco is going to be your row 9, with 17 and 18th. 19th is Tobias Honvi, and rounding out the top 20 is Arnold Koch. Good.
Yeah, it's very nice to see Benjamin Shoko back out there racing. Don Peak starts from 21st with Alan Graham alongside him on row 11. Then it'll be Derek Matthews and Jem Matzan on row 12. Michael Saunders and Timothy Porter will make the 13th row, with the last times out there being set by Gary Ho. Everyone else is split by their iRacing, which means Kurt Clapper will go from 28th ahead of Toby Yeomans and Rolly Wallbank, who are 29th and 30th. 33 cars out here today, which includes Sandeep Banerjee, Robert Reynolds, and Henry Brown, who we had a little look at towards the end. He is at the back of the field, car 33 of 33, which means he's got the lowest iRating of anybody here today. Just the one split, and it is frighteningly cold here today, Fen. That's going to put drivers on notice very early in this race.
That it certainly will. With those track temp only being 67 degrees, you're going to have to try to figure out and get those tires up to temp, so that way it will be able to keep the traction when you're trying to put the power down with these very aggressive machinery.
Very aggressive indeed. This is the sort of machinery that was championed by the likes of Graham Hill and Jim Clark. This is a simply legendary piece of machinery, and you see on the back there the engine, the Ford DFV Cosworth, one of the most legendary engines to have ever brought itself through. A nice Michelin tire there as well with the iRacing safety car. They're all in the mix, and there is a look at that engine and the back from Bill Tyler. That's what he'll see behind him on that very flowing run through turn 1 to Hotel Corner, which is the long right-hander. It will be about 200 degrees worth of turning right that they will have to deal with on this clockwise circuit, and this is a track that folds in and upon itself. It is a very technical showcase that they will have today. They have 2 minutes to get themselves gridded up, or they will start from pit lane. We're down to about the final 20 seconds worth of time. One of the drivers to wait for is Heike 360 ES, Xavier Sanchez, who streams out there on Twitch, a Porsche all-star of all things as well, getting in his practice before Porsche makes its challenge over the course of today. But 23 laps then are going to get themselves situated. Lights on, lights out. We are underway. Bill Tyler gets a slow launch off of the start, and it's going to be Laust Olsen who gets a great launch. They all managed to slide through effectively off of the line, but in towards turn 1. It's covered nicely on that outside by Nicola Cocchi, but then also making great progress is Jorge Nieva. He's jumped up to 3rd position on the start of this race. A simply fantastic start.
Absolutely. I was kind of watching the rest of the field to make sure everybody got underway, and watching Jorge Nieva just move forward was just beautiful craftsmanship of getting that start underway.
Yeah, he's done a great job, and everybody now is looking to try and find themselves in line. On we go with Togo Hesada, who's lost one off of the start. John Olsen has found his way through on the launch, now through the long secondary right-hand bend here, trying to get that power, almost the second Hotel Corner, which leads to the chicane. This right, left, right, where you've got to be pretty much online every which way you look. Watch out for slowdown penalties each and every time you're out there on circuit. But Valentias leads, Cocchi in 2nd, Nieva 3rd. Hesada's going to find out very early on here today why it's difficult to make a pass at Oschersleben.
Absolutely. With those 2 corners we were talking about as the only real good passing opportunities, we're just going to be sitting here trying to figure out and make that move. How can he get back past Olsen before the end of this race?
John Olsen here with a nice start, and everybody now making that launch. The pack really hasn't broken up as we've seen it in other races. I'd say it goes back to Robert Plumley, who's in 14th position. That's a spinner in the background. That might be Toby Yeomans. It is. So Yeomans has found himself around then at the end of the opening lap, then through that very difficult final corner. Marco Antonio Lopez finding himself now dropping a little bit of time as he finds himself 2 tires in the grass with no room, as through goes number 32 there of Roberto Pengrazzi making the move.
Absolutely, but no space left by Roberto Pengrazzi as he was trying to get that pass done and dusted so he can keep moving his own way up the field. Definitely hard to put the power down in some of these sections because of that lack of downforce.
Yeah, and so you are often feathering the throttle, waiting and waiting and waiting, as there is David Rossi in 11th position, just on the wrong side of the top 10. In front of him, the F2 championship leader, Kevin Verbruggen, who is out there and is doing a fantastic job. Xavier Sanchez leading this group, which has just started to fragment slightly. Here's a look from the back of Verbruggen then through the Shell S, which is this right, follows immediately into the left, taking at about 120 kilometers an hour. And now you've got this final section. It's all transfer through here, the medium speed corners to end the lap.
Yes, and just trying to see how much momentum you can carry with you onto this nice long start-finish straight line.
Yeah, and there is the fastest lap from Aldrius Valentines, a 1:24.970, absolutely marauding, and it was a gap of about 0.6, about half a lap ago, because behind him is Nicola Cocchi, who is now under a lot of pressure as we focus on forward. There is car number 2. Back from his sabbatical of almost a year, Jorge Nieva, who is second in the championship. If he were to finish like this, he'd be walking out of today with the championship lead, heading over to round 9 of the championship. He is wanting as many points as he can. Second would be a very important port of call for him.
That it certainly would. Giving more points, that way he can pop ahead of Hisada, would make everything pretty here, but he has to keep it in one piece. He has to keep it going the right direction. Still, we have 20 laps left.
Yep, so there's a long time in this race to try and make those moves. And at the moment, Jorge Nieva is happy with the gap he's got. He's built over 1.5 seconds now to Laust Olsen, who is in that 4th position. And you can see right now, the board game geek, self-proclaimed, is now trying to jump up and gain an extra place out there if he possibly can. That group behind is there sat with 5 in it, and everybody is stuck behind Laust Olsen, who's doing a fantastic job. But Aldrius Valentines on that last lap drops a second, and just like that, it was one small mistake, and that was coming through the penultimate corner, the Bauer corner, and he just ran it off the road. A rare mistake for Aldrius Valentines.
I almost wonder if he got a little unsettled on that last corner and he's now just trying to collect himself. And in doing so is almost trying to prevent more mistakes and is getting a little too tight. He's got to loosen up, get back into the flow he was getting because he was getting nice pace. And he needs to get back out there and finish that.
He doesn't often make mistakes, and he doesn't often relinquish the race leaders, Aldrius. He has won 2 of the last 3 rounds of the championship at Mugello, and, of course, last time out at the Hungaroring. This is screaming to be his 3rd win in his 3rd consecutive, or not consecutive start, but his 3rd start in a row. So he is looking now really, really good. There is the number 3 machine still, though, of Jorge Nieva, who's keeping honest here, Nicola Cocchi, in that 2nd position. No argument about that at this stage, but there's still a long way to go, and you're finding here that Valentines is doing really well through the flowing corners. That's where he's building the majority of his advantage. He's able to carry the speed more than his main competitors behind him.
Definitely has the setup that seems to allow him to keep a little more speed without losing control of the car in those sections, which is really paying him dividends in that gap that is growing between him and 2nd place.
Bill Tyler, who was on the front row of the grid, now looking to try and get back into 4th position as Valentines sets another fastest lap of the race, a 1:24.7. Here's a look into turn 1. It's slightly closed through that opening section. You've got to get to the inside for hotel. It's a 4-star hotel if you ever wanted to stay there, mind you. But you need to have a 5-star overtake if you're looking to get by. Tyler wasn't necessarily there in the mix. Having a look then down through the long Hassenroder corner, the long 180-degree left-hand bend, setting up the run for the triple and can't find the move.
He can. He keeps poking his nose out to try to see if he can make it, but then realizes that these corners are going to just take him into another car or take him off the track if he takes the incorrect line through these areas.
Yeah, and you'll see a number of drivers maybe trying to step out, take a different line, try and attack off the exit, because you're always trying to prioritize getting a notch, getting a nose that gives you an understanding of where an overtake can happen on this circuit. It's not the easiest track in the world to find passes, and we've seen that very early on in the race, that a number of drivers have got themselves sat in these trains and they find themselves bogged down and frustrated. This is on a level here of this circuit, very similar to the likes of an Oulton Park, very similar to the likes of a Snetterton by UK comparison. You could say here that this is FIA Grade 3, which means it's a national-style circuit, and that means that overtaking is going to be at a premium as Valentius again goes purple.
Just keeps setting faster and faster lap times, maximizing those little pieces where he has the run to get that speed and maintain it throughout the entire lap. It's going to be looking really good for him if he can keep it in the one piece.
He is keeping it in one piece and doing a great job. Still, Tyler applying the pressure to Laust Olsen. Behind him, Richard Watson having a very, very good run here today. John Olsen keeping Togo Hesada bottled up and frustrated. And this is what Hesada's going to be looking at. You do not judge a championship contender based on their best results. You always judge them when they're having to go to their B game and sometimes even their C game, Fen.
Absolutely. You have to judge every part of this championship, not just the parts you really like, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it's going to be about gaining the best out of a bad result, potentially, as they fly out of the chicane and over towards the Shell S as they rush along this long back stretch here known as the Stadion Gerard, and in through the right and the left. They're slightly wide miss first time, slightly wide miss second time from Laust Olsen. You can definitely sense that Bill Tyler is forcing him to slightly miss those apexes left and right, and he's all about gathering it back up. Lovely over the curb, out through the final section. We got one car now officially classified as one lap down. It looks like it's Alan Graham who is down in the pit, and he's run himself into troubles out there on circuit. He's taking a pit stop.
That he is. There's a few others that have also made a little bit of mistakes here and there that seem to be dropping them back or putting them back in pit lane. But it looks like overall, most of the track cars are still going the right direction on the lead lap.
One of them is Roberto Pangarazzi, who's had a spin on that last lap, and that was through the Hassenroder, so that was troubles there. There is number 3, second in the championship right now, Jorge Nieva, who is looking down the barrel here at Nicola Cocchi, the Italian, and trying to find a way through here at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben on lap 7, going through the right and the left. Lap traffic in front is not going to play helpful for Valentius. That's Robert Reynolds saying, I'm going to jump out of the way. And Jorge Nieva is going to hope that there's going to be a slight hold-up potentially, but no, traffic's well behaved. And as such, he can't find an angle yet to get himself past. There, the Martini liveried driver there in front of Cocchi, who is very much not shaken, and I wouldn't say he's stirred either at this point.
Absolutely not. I think he's still managing and keeping a cool, calm head, putting that time down, increasing that gap to P2 as much as he can.
Hesada still stuck behind John Olsen, really having to wrench on the wheel. Look at the torque he has to deal with all the way up there at about 200 Ks. He was still getting some wheel spin. No angle here at turn 1 into the hotel corner because of the lap traffic then that found itself on the inside. It will hold up Kevin Verbruggen just behind, who is now up into 9th place. But you're starting to sense that every time around this circuit, you think you've got a run, and the straight is just a little bit too long. But this is great from Hesada. He might be able to pick a run up here off of the exit, but it looks like it's covered by John Olsen. But the more that Hesada's applying this pressure, the more Olsen is falling off the back of Watson and Tyler and the other Olsen that's out there. Oh, a little search then from Hesada. Will now try the almighty around the outside, which is not quite there.
Absolutely, maybe going for that over-under. If Hesada gets good exit speed onto this back straight here in a moment, he might have the opportunity to get a run on Olsen, but it'll all depend on whether or not he can get it out from behind him soon enough to not get choked up.
He has got such a loose car, has one Mr. Togo Hesada. He does like that pliability. He does like the ability to feel what the car is doing, drive it on the ragged edge, and he is on the ragged edge at this moment in time. That group just in front is keeping itself honest, and it's tantalizing here in terms of what they want, which is all for all of them, points. They want points. They want opportunities. They know that group in front is just starting to really break away, and there's not much more that they can do about that. Along the front stretch then, heading over towards turn 1 and the hotel section. This is Xavier Sanchez, Heike 360 ES, who finds himself stuck behind the F2 championship leader, who is giving an absolutely fantastic showcase of his abilities.
Absolutely beautifully done from Verbruggen here, and just continuing to keep that pace and really showcase that, yes, he deserves to be on the top of that F2 championship.
He does, and he is flying, and more results like this will promote him up to the F1 championship if he is not too careful, because he is absolutely showcasing what he's got. That would be next season if at any time that does become the case. So that's going to be his MO for racing. Continue to extend that gap at the top of the F2 championship. Just like that, he'll go around through the chicane and he will find barrier for his trouble.
He absolutely will. It looks like he kept it mostly in one piece, though. I don't see a lot of damage in there, so I think he'll be okay. He just has to recover now and be safe with that.
There's an anti-cut curb on the inside of the first part of the chicane. That's what he clips. Look at that.
Yep.
Tips up onto two wheels. Has to desperately find the brakes, and it's going to be the rear left that hits the barriers there, and that could spell trouble for Kevin Verbruggen and his drive forward. It looks like the car is okay. He's now behind the world of Kinducci, that being Robert Plumley, and that is why you cannot take Oschersleben for granted.
You cannot, absolutely. It'll just come back to bite you as soon as you get out of line with these cars, especially given the fact they have zero downforce. They will just turn on you if you put too much power down too quickly. Beautifully done, a little scary, but beautifully done pass there as he's working his way back up the field.
Yeah, very heavy over the anti-cut curbs of turn one. Only half a lap ago, he was in the barriers because of it, and that would have been a big warning sign. Behind him, though, in terms of that group, you look around behind Plumley. You got Cam Porter, who's having a great race, Matthew Maudsley, Gary Ho, Jan Stefan is in there as well, so it's definitely a search then, and Cam is absolutely flying at this moment in time compared to his brother Timothy, who is way back down in 30th position at this moment. So Cam having a really nice performance here, number 14. He'll look behind. He's covering off Matthew Maudsley at every point.
Absolutely, he is doing his best to hold on to P14 and keep moving forward, trying to maybe catch up to Robert Plumley. But up 3 positions already, I wouldn't be too unhappy with how well that race has been going for him.
Well, you've got to take the gains. Every time you're out there on circuit, you have got to take the gains, and that's what Cam Porter has been able to do over the first half of this race, heading on towards lap 11 here of 23. The leaders already are. Aldris Valentias there. Oh, lovely plug. A GSRC shirt right now. That gives him an extra 2/10 worth of speed, Fed.
That it certainly does, at least 2/10, maybe 3 if he has a good flying lap already. So definitely very cool to see as he's continuing to keep moving forward.
Yep, he's certainly trying to stay in this group and try and keep out of trouble at this moment. Every points position he can gain is massive, and in a massive group like that, it's so easy to gain and lose. There is Laust Olsen in trouble around the outside. A search to the inside of the triple went Bill Tyler trying to get it done. And in fact, they have tangled on this lap. They have had a little bit of a bash of wheels. It was coming off the exit of the Hasenroder. There was a huge slide from Bill Tyler. He and Laust Olsen interlock wheels, but somehow both drivers still have a race.
Absolutely. I'm surprised they both made it out of that okay, but they were able to keep it going because they both have such great racecraft. They've been managing, keeping with each other so well up until this point. I'm just thankful they're both moving in the right direction.
They are both moving in the right direction. That might be the sort of thing that we might need a GSRC replay for. We'll see if the director can cue one of those up. A little search behind. Then as suddenly defense turns to attack for John Olsen as the group has completely shuffled back together. It's Watson who now finds himself on the defense here with Togo Hasada in the mix on the back of this. It's all about staying steady and finding what you've got. There is also the case of Henry Brown. Look at Togo go on towards the inside, but he's got no lane, and Henry Brown gets turned for his troubles.
Oh, that's a shame. Really rough trying to go any more than one wide, maybe 2 if somebody's got a good line. You got to be very careful with those first couple corners. Often the source of the many accidents on this circuit.
Especially when it's not entirely clear how you're supposed to stay out of the way through that section. That is a big hit and a shame for Henry Brown, who was the lap traffic, but Togo Hasada was trying to take a risk. It hasn't paid off. He hasn't found the move, and John Olsen and Richard Watson stay in the positions that they were in this race. There's no argy-bargy between these groups right now, but they know that pleasantries are still being exchanged at this point. They haven't written each other off Christmas card lists just yet.
Absolutely not. They're still moving pretty well in the same position, catching up to time to the cars in front of them, and it really will come down to the last few laps before they start throwing too many elbows with these machines.
Now, that was close. GSRC replay, though. This is where the troubles start to befall, and you are really getting a sense then of these drivers, of where you can find opportunities out there. It's through the Hasenroder where the troubles really start to befall, and we're going to get a long extended look here, Fen, at what happens here for Bill Tyler as he tried to make the move on Laust Olsen a couple laps previously.
Absolutely. I believe, if I remember correctly, he was on the inside trying to make that move happen on one of these two corners here, and then just got interlocked in when Tyler, was able to make the way out.
Yeah, so this is where Bill Tyler dives to the inside, and this is where you need a wide shot to see what happens. Tyler gets himself everything, desperate on the power, wheels it, saves it, interlock wheels. They actually make chassis contact there as they went through wheel to chassis. Somehow it is saved by Laust Olsen and he holds the place, but that could have been so much more trouble. Speaking of which, these drivers are all now keeping their eyes peeled on everybody else, and this is a long, focused race. Henry Brown, of course, down in the pits, but everybody now is starting to really spread out in this one, and it's pocket groups right now. You get a battle of just the one car or the two cars. Those groups that we saw early on really are splintering away.
That they are, as everybody kind of finds their own pace and really settles into their grooves and how fast they can push their cars with the setup. We're going to see those pockets kind of develop, and then if you see those pockets, they might move up to other pockets as they try to find speed and keep in front of the cars that are behind them.
Yep, everybody is keeping themselves on a level at this point. There has just been a spin for Don Peak out on circuit, so he's found himself in a bit of trouble, but the focus remains on fourth place between Laust Olsen and Bill Tyler as they continue on their escapade around this Motorsport Arena Oschersleben circuit. So there is every single incentive for these drivers to gain some big points, to give themselves some big security in the championship when there is no Sebastian Tixier, when there is no likes of Mick Claridge. These are the rounds where you really have to maximize the points haul.
Absolutely. That way you can bring them in, get up the points as far as you can, and then keep holding and keep working on improving that for the next few seasons or rounds of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do get that sense, that understanding that all of these drivers are on the improvement train at this point. Getting busy backwards a little bit right now. Javier Sanchez and Marco Antonio Lopez's group there as Togo Hesada again stays close, but he has been completely stymied by John Olsen. No chances to find that move as Valentias puts the 24-4 down on the books. Togo Hesada has been locked up under key at this moment by his guard, John Olsen, and he has very much said, "You shall not pass," in the words of Gandalf the Grey.
Absolutely. But at the same time, Olsen's been setting consistently good lap times that make Togo Hesada have to find the right spot and the right mistake to capitalize off of, and that just hasn't happened yet. So John Olsen has been doing amazing racecraft for this race.
And you really do get a sense of the dip in these cars when they hit the brakes, how the car pitches down and really hunkers down, looking to try and get through. You can even see as well, there's a tiny bit of damage on the front of Togo Hesada's front nose that is there. That's just showing how close he's running every single time to the rear gearbox then of John Olsen. He's almost pushing him in certain places. Those two prolonged exhausts, very much like an elephant's tusk.
That they are, and they definitely lead out the back to give a little bit of space to where that rear gearbox is. But I also wonder if that front damage might be caused by the turn that Togo Hesada was responsible for a few laps back.
That would also indicate a bit of damage, and that small tap that he had, you can see there, the red is certainly a little bit flayed at this moment in time. The paint just flaking off at this moment, but again on the brakes now. through the right-hand bend then of that final corner, the second Anhalt curve, and onto the front stretch once more. This is where you have to be alert. Again, Hesada has a little look. There is room given through that initial turn-in, but again, when Hesada tries to take that wide line, he's trying to cut back off of the exit of the hotel corner. It's covered off by John Olsen, who plants the car in the middle of the road and gets the best of both worlds. Inside cover, outside cover.
Absolutely. Inside cover, outside cover, and is able to just keep the position because he's not going around as far on those corners and taking that inside line on both sides.
Very much. It's very much feeling like a street circuit here, Fen, for Togo Hesada. This was the last thing he wanted. Poor qualifying, poor start, unable to make moves.
Absolutely. Just being stuck behind a car that you know you can get around, but you can't find the move to actually make that pace count.
Top 10 now in the battles, and it's two Spaniards, Xavier Sanchez and Marco Antonio Lopez. David Rossi sits behind this group in 11th position, trying to mastermind a way forward. On to the back straight here, the Stadion Gerard, and over towards the Shell S once more. This is where you've got to be switched on very heavy from Marco Antonio Lopez over that inside curve there through turn 11. Out on track. He knows that he's got to try and take every single moment he can, because Xavier Sanchez on a good day is a driver who can win races and has won races. You look at someone like Marco Antonio Lopez, he's inside the top 10 in the championship, and it's this consistency that's got him there.
That it has, just setting consistent pace times and getting him up the order to keep moving and get some good points for this championship. He's definitely on a really good set of laps today. I hope he can make it past Xavier, or both of them were able to make it, get good positioning out of this.
Well, at the moment, they are 7 seconds adrift of Togo Hesada's group right now, which sits in 7th and 8th positions. And right now, it's about their race and their one position that they can gain in the final stages of this one. It has been a long and difficult race for these drivers because it is such a stop-start nature of this circuit, especially here because we're on the full layout here, the 3.7 kilometer version. It is a tough ordeal every time you're around with the laps because you are dealing with some very, very difficult places to try and make all the moves happen out on circuit. Again, you get that sense that these drivers are stuck at 2/10, 3/10, 4/10 of a second, can't really make anything happen. Nobody seems to stop this guy. Aldris Valentias has made one mistake today, but he built a gap to afford him that, and now he's just rebuilt that gap and then some. It's almost 4 seconds.
That it is, 4 seconds, consistent lap times, good speed, really focusing on those apex and exits and just making the most of the track because he has nothing in front of him that is going to stop him or slow him down.
No, he is on another level, and he is proving that every time he jumps in this series, he is a favorite to win the race. He's got 3 missed races this season, so he's got a 0 to his points all, but he's never out of the championship. That much we certainly can say. Richard Watson, the Texan, now looking for his overtake. Laust Olsen has now lost out the place to Bill Tyler, who has moved up the position and done so into turn 1. On this lap. So Bill Tyler getting it done. Laust Olsen all of a sudden is in struggle street.
That he is. I'm really curious if that maybe demoralized him, and now he's trying to kind of recoup what he's doing, and in the process is losing more time now that he's trying to figure out how to get that time back to Bill.
And look behind, Togo Hesada is going to have to go around the outside here of the Shell S to try and make this move. You can see it here. He's worked up the courage to get to the inside. He slides it, though, and he'll lose it. Tires in the grass. Can he recover? Yes, he can. And he's not cost himself too much time either. Great effort, but an equally great save to keep himself in the race.
Absolutely. But it's absolutely that feeling of trying to stop yourself from sliding down the mountain, where you're not really getting anywhere as the result of it. A lot of effort, but he ends up back where he started. So could have gone way worse than it ended up being. Really good recovery there.
This might just have to be one of his drop rounds. We also note that Xavier Sanchez has had a mistake on that last lap. He went off the road after the chicane and as such has found himself in trouble. And he's just gone around again almost there. That'll be Kevin Verbruggen who goes through the F2 Championship leader. And Sanchez will now rejoin with the likes of Robert Plumley, Cam Porter and Gary Ho behind.
That he will, and is able to probably make some more time back up here, hopefully. But it ended up putting Verhoeven back where he started in 11th.
Yeah, and you can't say there's anything wrong with keeping a hold of the number that you start with. No gain is still a really good result, and there's the look through the triple with Cam Porter heading towards the long right-hander, a homage to the opening corner out here on this track, and it's now a case for Cam of can he find a way past Robert Plumley? Can he gain an extra position on the Londoner? And the answer to that at the moment is no, but he's still got 4 laps and a little bit of change as well. I'd say 4.5 to try and get what he wants, which is an all-important overtake.
That he certainly does. So I definitely think it's going to be a matter of holding on to and finding the rooms where Cam is currently running faster than Plumley and maximizing the space as much as possible for that overtake over at Shell Corner, or heaven forbid at the front start straight at the hotel corner.
There's always opportunities to find overtakes, and that we have certainly seen in this group, and it continues on this long stretch. Porter will now have to look behind because it is now Gary Ho's turn to start being a little bit more aggressive and trying to find the opportunity, but at the moment it's not there through Hotel, and they will look over towards the left-hander of the Hassan Roda corner, and again on the brakes it's not quite there, but the gap left slightly open, gathers it back up on the exit, will be able to get some drive there, will Cam Porter, and he'll get away, and he'll be okay now for this next section. No real overtaking place up until the Shell S that comes along next, so there is still going to be places where you search and you look and you think, wow, I've definitely got chances here with a couple of laps to go. Meanwhile, Hassada's back trying to make moves on the inside as he tries to gain some places in the middle of the pack here, Fen. So everywhere you look, oh, Hassada's off, but he's back on again.
He won off and managed to keep it back on, kind of feeling that he's getting a little more excited out of the car is a little lighter. We've gotten through this race, and he's trying to figure out how to keep it all in one piece, and it's starting to get a little wiggly under him from what it looks like, and it's ended up changing how he wants to drive it versus how it is driving.
Here's my question. Do you think he's trying too hard?
I think he is pushing himself a little too hard at the moment, because I think that's where a lot of the mistakes are coming from that I think are just waiting a little bit more to get on that throttle so that way you don't shake out that car and cause it to go flying off the track in a way that you can hopefully recover it, but maybe gets to the point where you can't.
It's the difference between 7th and 8th position in this race. This might be a drop for Togo Hassada at the end of the season. Off the road, wide in front though, will go Laust Olsen. They're really struggling with traffic here of Robert Reynolds and Timothy Porter, who are in their own battles. So this is where the group can start to coalesce. So one gets clear, and that will be Laust Olsen, who will be happy. Second won't in Richard Watson. This is the group that chases. And how aggressive do you need to be if you're John Olsen? Hassada, very comfortable on the chase, very comfortable to make that run every single time over to this section of road. It's covered on the inside. Hassada goes screaming through the corner. He's going to overshoot it now, and he is going to have to try and save it. Small clip of gravel's going to keep him pretty much centered, and he'll drop pace. Alan Graham out of the way as well, and all of a sudden, John Olsen still finds himself in a bit of trouble out there, because everywhere you look is someone else trying to find that move with only a couple of laps left.
Absolutely. Hassada sending it off the track there was definitely going to be interesting. So to see, Hassada pop back up in the rearview mirror as Olsen, it's going to be another chance of, all right, where are you going to try to pass me and then have another mistake because you're pushing too hard? And we'll get back into this tango again. It's going to be an interesting couple laps.
It will. It's a dance that a lot of these drivers do not want to be dealing with at this stage. Togo Hassada is desperate, and that fighting spirit that he has is often so infectious to watch with the way that he drives. He never gives up on a race until the very end. And again, he's got fantastic runs, a lot of smoke coming along at this braking zone. You have to turn and brake at the same time, which is the most difficult skill in sim racing.
That it is. Trail braking, as it's often called, is one of the hardest things to, I think, to get right, especially on low downforce cars like these ones, without sending either the car off track or killing your time because you're applying too much.
Togo Hosada knows that if he can't make this move, there is more damage in the championship on the horizon. He is needing to find this pass on John Olsen. He knows that the third place by Jorge Nieva is enough, and that Aldrius Valentias is never out of the championship. One car, Toby Yeomans, is pulling off into the pits. The last lap of this race has started for your race leader, and it has been simply a dominant display again at the front of this field. Olsen still holding that defense against Togo Hosada, who loves to run deep here through Hotel, but this time he's trying to get a little bit more narrow, and again it's covered beautifully off there by car number 6 in terms of their race. With Watson and Olsen also having their race in front, that's going to be really crucial between now and the end of this one. Rushing through the Hassan Roda over towards the triple, and trouble, huge issue out there. That is not what the doctor ordered for John Olsen, and he tried to hold, and ultimately it breaks. With one big slide, Togo Hosada took a massive chunk out of the front of his car. Olsen now behind Marco Antonio Lopez, and now it's just about survival. Aldrius, no such issues. This has been a walk away from the Lithuanian, and Aldrius is simply unstoppable. He wins at Oschersleben, and he wins with comfort.
He does indeed. Through probably in second is going to be Koki and Nieva in third here in just a moment as soon as they get across the line. Fourth through sixth, also rounding out Tyler, Olsen, and Watson are going to be crossing the line here in just a moment.
Yep, so they just crossed now. Olsen is going to hold. There's the other Olsen, John, back in ninth, and he's got to take the pits because he's got a black flag, and it will not matter. He won't get the chance to serve that penalty in time, so whatever he'll do, he'll be assessed with a penalty to jump back down. He was on the incident cap limit, and that is a real shame. He will score the minimum amounts of points out there here today in terms of the results that he was looking for. Still got battles towards the end. You've still got Hanvi here versus Wallbank. This going on for the final spots in the top 20.
That they are. They've been being pretty consistent with each other and getting around the track in one piece. So it's going to be probably a race, maybe to forget, but definitely one that they can be happy with, that they didn't at least kill the car in the process.
Yeah, some comfortable finishes for the pair of them. Wallbank up 10, a great result for him. We're going to step aside for just one moment on the Global Sim Racing channel. Post-race coverage coming to you here from Motorsport Arena Oschersleben after this. a race which, for many, many drivers, was about trying to keep themselves in with a ticket to the end. It was a comfortable display of driving at the top from Audrius Valentijus, whose victory time of 32 minutes and 33 seconds was enough to win by almost 5 seconds, and I mean almost 5, over Nicola Kocky. Jorge Nieva would finish off in third, with Bill Tyler fourth, and Laust Olsen holding on to fifth position ahead of Richard Watson. Togo Hosada would end up with 7th at the end, but there would be dramas on the last lap with Bill Tyler, as Marco Antonio Lopez would finish off in 8th, with David Rossi 9th, and your F2 Championship leader Kevin Verbruggen rounding out the top 10.
In 11th is going to be Xavier Sanchez, At 12th, they're going to have Robert Plumey. Cam Porter, who we've been riding along with a lot, is going to end up 13th. 14th is going to be Gary Ho. 15th is going to be Jan Stefan. 16th is going to be Matthew Maudsley. 17th is going to be Benjamin Soko. 18th is going to be Tobias Hanvi. 19th is Rolly Wellbank. And rounding out top 20 is going to be John Olsen, for where he finished that race.
Yep, he did take a penalty at the end, which dropped him back an extra 30 seconds added on, which means that he does finish in at 20th. The last driver on the leading lap would be Arnold Koch, who would be unlucky and lose out by just 6 hundredths of a second in the end, because he wasn't close enough to John Olsen over the line. The first lap down would be Derek Matthews. Such was the pace of today. Michael Saunders, Timothy Porter a lap down, so too Donald Peake and Toby Yeomans. Jem Matzan had a couple spins out there today. He dropped a little bit down the order, and you look around the field, the likes of Alan Graham down there, Robert Reynolds, and Henry Brown, 9 laps down, the first of the retirees. He got caught up with Togo Hosada. Kurt Clapper, Roberto Pangrazi, and Sandeep Banerjee were the other retirees in this race. Just 12 laps down the final drive, which meant we were clean for the majority of the opening half of this one overall. We're going to start with the driver who finished off in 3rd position overall here for our interviews. That is Jorge Nieva. He stood by with Fen Woodruff.
All right. Nieva, excuse me. I'm losing my mind over here. How does it feel to be back on the podium?
Okay, you got a copy of you, buddy? I think we're going to try a little bit later with Jorge Nieva, so that is one that goes through. I believe here is Nicola Kochi, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. So, Nicola, 2nd position overall here today. A race which, for you, must have been really promising in terms of the way that it went about. But for you, especially in the early stages, you were really putting that pressure on Audrius.
Yeah, it was a stressful race for sure. I didn't expect it to have Jorge so close behind me, and he stayed there for many laps. On the first few laps, I usually find my best pace, but after that, it was just a long series of tiny mistakes here and there, and I think I could have been, I don't know, 2 or 3 tenths a little faster maybe, but I wasn't really able to actually put the pace on the track today. I felt again very sleepy, at least sleepier than I expected, and I was trying constantly to recalibrate all my reference points and my inputs, but yeah, he was very slidey, and Audrius, even if it did a little bit of mistakes, but it wasn't mistakes that it cost like much time, so he was able to stay ahead. He's much smoother than me on driving style, and maybe his style is paying off compared to mine, but maybe mine is funnier to drive.
Well, you're certainly having a wonderful showcase of driving after your sabbatical. In terms of this, it's a 2nd place finish. You know, a lot of the players of the game that you'd expect here today maybe either struggled or didn't turn up. For you, these are valuable points. It goes to show that, okay, here, the second half of the season, you're not having a full season's attack, but as much as these results are positive for you, is this setting you up to go, okay, next season is going to be really fantastic if I can show this pace at this point?
Yeah, this season for me is a little bit of a preseason to be sure that everything is in check. my driving, my equipment, and everything. And I have all the intention to be here next season as well. And so for this season is not much by points. My my main focus is actually it's never been like that for me. It's for me driving sim racing is much aimed toward the fun to actually do it. But it's it's always fun. It's always good to be up there and even fight to some wins sometimes.
Nicola, 1 week from today, it's the Nürburgring. It's the Grand Prix layout. How are you feeling in terms of confidence heading there?
Oh, it's the Grand Prix, so it's not the Nordschleife?
I believe it's the Grand Prix.
Oh, okay. So that's put me a little bit on easier spots. I was very afraid about the Nordschleife, not because I'm not used to drive there, because it's one of my favorite track, but the combo with the 49 is very dangerous. So I don't really like the Nürburgring Grand Prix too much, but it's going to be much easier to stay alive. And it's hard to actually predict what you're going is going to be your pace compared to the other. But I'm expecting to be more or less in my usual spots, and I'll start training from tomorrow.
Well, that was Nicola Cocchi, who is looking at getting some intensive training in for next time out at the Nürburgring. He joins us second position overall. We're going to try once again to get Jorge Nieva in, stood by with Fen Woodruff.
Jorge Nieva, do we have you this time?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
It sounds like we do. Welcome back to the podium. You were keeping up with Nicola Cocchi pretty well for most of that. How was that on you mentally when you were kind of keeping behind them and trying to get past?
Well, we had a race earlier this week, and he crashed me. He was almost a second per lap faster than me, so I thought this time it would be the same. But the first laps I could follow him a little bit. I didn't want to fight too much because I saw that Audrius wasn't escaping too much, so I didn't want to make him escape, but then I made a little mistakes here and there, and well, P3 is the best I could get today with two drivers like Nicola and Audrius. It's my best.
And it certainly was very good enough to put you on the podium. And with that, those mistakes, thankfully, I didn't think cost you too much time when I looked at like the grand scheme of that race. What was kind of the emotions kind of running through your head as you were hitting those and getting past, like recollecting yourself? How'd that end up feeling?
Well, I saw that the people behind me were very far, so I didn't get nervous. I just thought, well, get the car home, and P3 is the best. Well, considering that I made a very bad quali, I made mistakes in the second lap, so what could have been a P2 wasn't. So well, I made I think a little bit too aggressive start, but I thought it was the right thing to do.
Definitely was. It kept you in the race and in P3, and you brought it home all safe. So it could have been much worse, I feel like. But going next week, we have the Nürburgring at the Grand Prix layout. Are you looking forward to that?
I don't know if I can drive the next week, so I might skip that one. It's
fair enough.
It's not very important because it's a track that I'm very bad at, but well, I feel sad about it.
That's fair, but you do have the drop weeks, I think, thankfully, to keep you in the points.
Yeah, but I think Audrius is going to win this championship even with 3 zeros and if he keeps winning, I think he'll win the championship with 1-0 more than the rest of us. He's amazing.
Had amazing pace today as well. Is there anyone you want to thank as you are getting on the podium and getting through the
Well, you
race?
guys, with you guys at GSRC and all the people on this series. I enjoy driving with them a lot. So thank you all.
Awesome, of course, and thank you for talking with us. That has been Jorge Nieva, our third place finisher.
Yeah, Jorge having a very, very good showing here today. Damage limitation in some respects, and it goes to show you the fear that all the drivers have of those who are up at the very top. A great showing today from Laust Olsen, who finished off in 5th place here today. Laust, you were at the front of a lot of the battling here today with the likes of Bill Tyler. Just talk us through that middle of the battle coming out of turn 3, of course, that long 180-degree left-hand bend, the Hassenroder, and the contact that you made, of course, with Bill in what was an incredible bit of car control from the pair of you.
Yeah, that was both fun and scary at the same time, but I got a not too good exit, and Bill got a great exit, so he had a run into the next corner, and yeah, we went side by side, and he said afterwards in the chat that he was too eager and spun the rear tire, so I guess he went a little sideways, so we had a little contact, but luckily none of us had any damage, so that was the fight could carry on. That was that was quite a moment.
It's been the sort of season for you where you've been having a lot of consistent showings in and around the top 10. You came into today 7th in the championship. So in terms of getting the most out of these races for you, is a race like today here at Oschersleben crucial, especially as you've just moved up to P5 now in the championship?
Yeah, that was quite a great result, and very happy for that. I'm not sure what happened, why I was so far off today, because I think there were a lot of us, at least a couple of people who should have been in front of me in qualify, but it was great starting up there, and the start was also very exciting. Going up in the middle between two cars was also quite nerve-wracking. So that was some race today. Really had fun.
Yeah, a lot of bravery was certainly needed off of the start, but it is going to feel rather similar. We move from one German track to another German track. How does the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit fare in your, I would say, collection of tracks you like or dislike?
It has parts that I like, and then there's some part that I really dislike. And I'm not sure what configuration we're running, but either configuration, the first part of the first sector of the track is not to my liking, and the chicane at the end of the lap is also not to my liking, but the remainder of the lap I find quite good.
So right down the hill, the Mullenbacher Schleife is your favourite section. That's Laust Olsen there joining us, getting a 5th place in the championship at this current moment. A strong showing here today in terms of the race, jumping in and getting a 5th place finish there. We'll bring in 2 for the same time here along with us right now. It will be both Cam and Tim Porter having 2 very nice races together. The brothers Porter here. And I guess the first thing I have to really ask in terms of what your 2 days were like is that, Cam, you had a really good day. Tim maybe had a little bit more struggles, but was still able to gain during the race. So the dichotomy of this track, really, for both of you, what were the challenges and what were, I would say, the bits that made it a little bit more difficult - easy for either one?
Hey, Cam.
Okay, well, I had a great race with Gary Ho and Robert Plumley and Matthew Mosley. So shout out to those guys for having a great close battle. Just couldn't pressure Robert into a mistake, and Gary was right on me at the end. But I kept expecting Tim to storm his way through the field. Unfortunately, he's been having some bad luck this season and keeps getting punted before he gets the chance to do that. So Tim will have his day.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. Yeah, but and in races like this, I like this track. First of all, it's got a nice flow to it. I enjoy it. My main target always is Cam, of course. But at the start, I got caught up in slower traffic because well, I'm one of the main contributors to that. But that's not important. I got caught up in slower traffic, so Cam was able to pull away from me. I wasn't able to keep up. We saw that go through for the rest of the race. Now I thought when the race leaders caught up to me and they passed me, that means I had to go one less lap than Cam, so I thought maybe I could win still with that little bit of a boost, but the math didn't work out. I still don't understand that, but I had a good race. It's always fun. I have a good time.
Yeah, so certainly a great time's being had. Tim, you've been in the wars a little bit. I guess this is the sim racing equivalent of having a sticker on the back of your car that says "kick me." But in terms of trying to build form and build momentum for you, how does the week's worth of practice go for you, and how do you get yourself into a position where this race becomes the prime focus?
Well, my practice involves how fast can I go into that corner before I I try and find the limits, of course, but that goes with, my setup. I use the basic setup, but I figure if I can't drive very well, my setup isn't going to matter much at all. So my practice always involves just trying to be safe, just trying to make sure I know what the car is going to do. So because that when a lot of folks pass me, I let them by because I'm like that. I'm just generous. But they get by me, and I want to make sure that I don't take anybody out. That's happened in the past. We all make mistakes, but I just try to be safe, and eventually, with enough practice, slowly it's going to come around. I don't crash as much. I get a little bit of better results, and just it's going to come around eventually. I'm patient. I do this for fun.
And Cam, do you have a 2.5 advantage over your brother because of the GSRC shirt you are currently wearing?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It
it's
brings some
unfair.
good karma.
Well, we will let you continue on your tiff and your practice and your brotherly battle that you have together over on next week. That will be at the Nürburgring. Cam and Tim Porter joining us there, having a whole heap of fun in terms of the racing that we have seen. Fen, final thoughts before we take ourselves away from one German circuit and we drive basically to the other side of the country for next week.
Well, as we get packed up and go across the country, I think it's just it's a beautiful circuit. It was great racing overall with the kind of interesting ones and twos pieces that really kind of made moments for rather good or bad for this championship. It's going to be interesting to see how they carry these points they've earned here into the Nürburgring next week.
The gap has come down in the championship. It is now a 3-point lead for Togo Hesada. But Aldrius Valentius is not a million miles away. He sits at the precipice, 39 points back with 4 races to go. At this pace, he will catch and he will pass and he will become champion, but it will depend on the results of Hesada and Nieva to see whether that will become the mix. I want to give a massive thanks to everyone who has got it done today, from Fen, from Robert, and from Dougie. You can catch all of the equipment that has helped get this broadcast over the line and into your screens here, thanks to the likes of OBS & Co. And special thanks has to go to June Lalonde. You can catch her music on Bandcamp if you haven't had the chance to already. There are so many amazing broadcasts here with the Global Sim Racing channel. There'll be another one later today with the Camel Series. Those broadcasts will be flying across your screen, and make sure you write them down in your calendar if you haven't had the chance to already. You can always follow us on our social media channels, be it our X, our Facebook, or our Instagram, as well as our website and our merch store, gsrc.storenvy.com, if you want 2.5 of a second, just like Cam Porter did today. It's been a great championship. It still will be. The Nürburgring is on the horizon. Everybody is looking around at everyone else. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we will see you at the Nürburgring.